Hello there folks, and how is it going? And welcome back to another video, and welcome to the beautiful Irish Sea. And we are at Sandymount Beach. Is Sandymount Beach? Yeah, we are at Sandymount Beach. I had to just double check that. And today's video is all about me learning and progressing in my photography. If you had watched my kind of, New Year best of last year, I mentioned that I really want to try my hand at fine art photography. I am a big fan of Gary Goff's YouTube channel and the work that he creates. So my aim of the game is to try my best to replicate that, like blend the horizon, do all that kind of fun stuff. And it's such an overcast day here where we are. I figured today would be a very, very good opportunity for me to try and do that. And for my first image, even looking at the back of the camera of the test shots that I'm taking, I am absolutely delighted with the results so far. And if I can't manage to blend the horizon, so be it. They're still going to turn out to be very, very nice images nonetheless. So we are here photographing the Sandymount Baths, is what it's called. Tide is almost at its highest point, which is absolutely ideal, and we're having a great time. It's really, really great. It's happy Sunday to us all. So if this picture turns out to be any good, I'll pop it up on the screen for you now. Welcome friends to the ASMR Photography Studio, and welcome to the first result of me experimenting with this new form of photography. Well, it's not really a new form of photography, but it's at least a new form of photography for me. And I am really delighted with how this image turned out. Now, there are lessons to be learned here just for my own sake. It would seem I took way too long of an exposure, which essentially kind of eradicated any texture in the sky and in the water. The water itself was it was a bit murky in the original file, and when I processed it to this degree, this is the result that I came out with. Now, I did only just yesterday add in the vignette and the gradient that you can see at the top and the bottom, and for me, I think it really helps to kind of just focus and narrow in on the main subject. But really, at the end of the day, it's just like a bit of graffiti wall on a white background that any Joe blog could have really made. But as we progress throughout this video, we'll see some learnings that happen along the way. But as a start, I am delighted with this result. So, I am no Photoshop expert, but I really hope that image that you just seen turned out to be nice in any way, shape or form, because looking at the preview on the back of the camera, I'm really delighted with a nice pop of colour in this crazy grey. Now, I didn't have to go anywhere for my next shot. I literally just turned the camera and now I am looking at these beautiful, iconic Pigeon house chimneys across the way. A very iconic Dublin kind of scene, and I am trying my best to recreate and photograph this as best I can in this kind of fine art style. Now, Orla and I are obviously here together, having a wonderful day out, and we might visit the opposite side of the Pigeon house as well. We also need to get some lunch too. And so the beautiful thing about this stretch of coastline, when the tide is high, you can really then try and capture some of this wonderful atmosphere that's in the air. And I am running at 1 minute 20 seconds so far, and I am going to see if that one works out to be any good. But altogether, if any of these pictures of Dublin's Pigeon house turn out to be any good, I am going to pop them up on the screen for you right now. Now, this image I took massive liberties with. I suppose I'm free to do when it comes to creating these fine art photography images. As you can see, I got rid of some land that you would have seen from the footage and things like that. But again, the same thing happened with this image that happened with the first image. It's all just too kind of white and blown out. And the gradient that I added at the top and the bottom kind of helps to darken this down just a slight bit. But overall, I really still love this image for what it is. For me, the Pigeon house, these two chimneys are a very iconic Dublin scene, and the way that they're kind of portrayed here is something that I find quite appealing. But I really do like how this turned out, and there's that pop of red that's in there as well. Really helps to kind of punch out the main subject, which I really enjoy about this image. But again, still learning the process. This particular one was obviously a bit harder for me to process because I had to remove a lot more of the surrounding area and essentially to try and create that, solid kind of background, that blended horizon background. But overall, really delighted with how this one turned out. So this is a very popular place to walk and run, and it's a wonderful place, Sandymount Beach. So if you ever come to Dublin and visit me to say hello, we'll be sure to come here. Now, I have not moved from my next composition, which is even more wonderful about standing right here. I have my 100 to 400 on. I love my 100 to 400, and I am looking all the way out at Poolbeg Lighthouse. And it is so wonderfully backdrop. I don't know whether this image will fall into this kind of like fine art photography style of getting rid of the horizon and all that kind of stuff. I just really, really love the aesthetic of it, just looking out here. It's so wonderfully contrasted against the dark background and moody atmosphere of hope. And the red of the lighthouse then is just popping itself. So I'm taking a very long exposure. Right now I'm at 1 minute and 15 seconds. So we'll see. Again, this is more like a test. It's more me testing the waters, pardon the pun, about all of this kind of stuff. And really, really enjoying the previews that I'm seeing on the back of the camera and here on my phone, tethered as my the batteries in my intervalometer were dead. Who would have thunk it? So I'm using my phone again and having a really, really smashing time. So if this picture turns out to be any good, then I am going to pop it up on the screen for you right now. So this is the result of that 100 to 400 millimeter image that I took. For me to try and remove the background here and try and blend all of this, I did try a little bit, but really like the results just were not good at all. So I just decided to leave this image as is. I really still love the aesthetic of it. I love that pop of red that's standing off the kind of darkened background that is Howth. And I really, really love the long exposure in the water and that kind of gradiated feel from the murky grayness of the Irish Sea into a bit of green and then the red and then that nice kind of silhouette of Howth as well. I really, really love it overall. The only thing I will nitpick about though is that vignette that you can see around. That is, I think, a result more of my lens. So if anybody has any idea about how I can mitigate that, I'd be delighted to hear it in the comments below, because I have noticed that from time to time, maybe it was the f-stop I was shooting at, that the vignette does kind of pop up and annoys me. It's just like, please stop putting the vignette there. But nonetheless, this is a wonderful image and a real nice representation for me and the kind of idea I was looking to try and portray. You've got your flash on. Thankfully all that time was recording. We tried to take a picture and we'll see. I'm going to pop up that picture now to see if it worked out any well. So anyways, for my final image, I have reverted back to the first composition, except this time I am photographing it much wider. I essentially want to try and place this Sandymount Baths just in nothing. That's my thought process behind it. And also as well, another key thing to today's learning experience is me trying to convert one or two images into black and white. Y'all know at this stage now I'm on a bit of a black and white kind of learning experience from last year, and I want to hope to try and combine these new lessons together to create these kinds of nice fine art images. So if this particular image turns out to be any good, I'm going to pop it up on the screen for you now, and then we are going to pack up, grab some lunch, and then move on to another spot and see if we can continue some more of this magic. Now this, for me, is exactly the kind of thing that I was looking to try and create when going out to, chase this idea. The exposure is short enough for me to still retain some texture in the water and then in the sky itself as well. And for me, obviously, the composition I really, really love. I love the idea that I saw this before I photographed it and ultimately then created it in post. I really, really love that. Now, one of the advantages about this particular scene is that the main focus point, these baths, I purposely left them below the horizon line just to make that transition a bit easier for me to do in post-production. All of these edits are like trial and error over the last kind of week or so that I've been, learning how to process these images. But overall, this is the kind of frame that I would ultimately have liked to achieve for the first two images. There's still texture, there's still a sense of place there. It's not just a white kind of background, and I really, really love the dark clouds streaking as if they're kind of pointing down to the focus point of this image. And I love that vast sense of emptiness that's in this scene. So I am delighted with how this particular one turned out. And one I think would probably look very well as a print, but that would remain to be seen, because who knows if I ever get the chance to print it. But overall, I am thrilled with how this particular one turned out. So folks, we have come across, where are we? We're on the Bull Wall, which is essentially over on the north side of Dublin's River Liffey now. As you can see here behind me, you've got the Pigeon house, which is essentially where we were looking, but from the other side. So we're all the way over on the other side now. And for my last shot here, I am absolutely delighted with the composition that I found. This is essentially a stairwell into the water where people swim. This is like the male section, and Orla's snuck in. But this image that I'm photographing here now, I really hope turns out to be very well. Now, whether I'll be able to kind of like, you know, fine art photography, it remains to be seen. You guys are going to see it now in a moment, because I think if by, you know, for me trying to get rid of the city might be a bit too advanced for my Photoshop skills. So, but look, ASMR photography lab style shall determine all. I might need to spend a little while editing these photos, but nonetheless I am thrilled that this is the last shot that I found, because I really love the composition. Right now I'm at 2.5 minutes, and I'm going to stop that now just because that's kind of where the sweet spot is in terms of the light. Obviously it's much darker now than it was, you know, when we began this adventure, but nonetheless we're having a wonderful time. So if any of these pictures turn out to be any good, then I will pop them up on the screen for you now. So this will be a question of whether you prefer the colour version or the black and white version of this picture. I really love the composition. Again, as I mentioned, the harbour and the horizon line, it was just too hard for me to try and get rid of them, and I thought it would be best just to leave them in there. I didn't want to make a mess of this frame because I really love the aesthetic feel that this image has. And as I mentioned, you know, I'm in a bit of a black and white process kind of vibe, so I'd be very curious to know which you prefer. I don't even know which one I prefer as I'm standing here kind of flipping between them. I think the black and white has its own kind of appeal, but I do enjoy color photography, and I think that's probably leaning me more towards the color one. But overall I am super delighted with A, the composition of this image, B, the fact that the exposure time was correct to give some lovely texture in the water, and of course some lovely texture in the sky too, and then C, then obviously being able to use this image to convert it into a black and white to kind of play around with that learning of the skill of processing black and white images. But overall I'm really super duper happy with how this particular image turned out, and I really do love it. For me it's a very kind of Dublin harbour kind of shot, you know, it's very good. I really love it for that, and I'm super delighted with it. Okay folks, so I did say that last image was probably the last one, but this one, man, I'm in love with how this image turned out. This frame is actually from next week's video. As I was progressing through the editing of all of the images that you would have just seen throughout the course of this video, I was editing, you know, next week's video's images, and I was kind of like, oh, I wonder if this one could work. And man, I absolutely am delighted with how this particular frame turned out. I'm going to put this one in for next week's video as well, just to show you the original frame and talk about it a bit more there too. But overall, for me, like the image with the clouds that worked for that Bads image, for me this is like a culmination of all of the learning that I had, you know, over the last week or so while I was kind of figuring out how to create these kinds of photographs. And for me this one is just, it's just so I really love it. It's just so beautiful. Now obviously I've taken some massive liberties in how the image came to be, but you'll see that next week. But overall I really wanted to include it here just because, like I say, for me it's like a culmination of all the kind of skills that went into processing all of the other images, and I really love that about this image as well, is that it's a nice kind of end to this learning paragraph as we continue this journey seeking out these kinds of fine art images. So I really love it for that sense, and overall I'm super duper delighted with how this one turned out. So folks, I think I am going to leave this here. What an absolutely wonderful day we have had. Very kind of spur of the moment as well, when the conditions kind of seemed like they were going to be, helpful for me in beginning this journey. We jumped at the opportunity to head out and photograph. It's just a wonderful thing to do anyways. As I mentioned earlier, this style of imagery is something that I've been craving for a long time, and I suppose just being a bit apprehensive to begin the journey in terms of learning. So what better way to start our new year and springtime with a new genre of photography to add to the cap. But it's been a really, really wonderful day, and I really, really hope the images have turned out okay. I'd be so curious to hear your thoughts in the comments below. So do please let me know what you think. Now, obviously, I have some workshops, some one-to-one tuition that you're most welcome to look at on my website. You'll find all the links in the description below. And for now, we are going to just enjoy the rest of this evening out here on the north side of Dublin. Go for a nice walk and just enjoy, because it's just so beautiful out here. So I will stop my rambling, and if you like the video, folks, do please hit that like button. And if you fancy following along for more of these adventures, you are most welcome to hit that subscribe button. But for now, I will see you all in the next one. Take it easy, everybody. Cheers.